Brittany Lyseng.
It's on vinyl for me. Fuck John Cougar!
Alright, hello and welcome to Misfits on Vinyl. My name is Spencer Strakert. I'm an actor, comedian, and one of your tits.
My name is Aaron.
Aaron is also an actor and the other tit.
Yes.
And today we're a tri-tit. We have comedian, actor, extraordinaire from Calgary, Alberta, Brittany Lyseng.
Hey, what's up?
How goes it?
Pretty good,
This is
man.
our first reoccurring guest.
First reoccurring guest.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Welcome
God,
back,
that's exciting.
welcome back.
You've beat out Forrest, you've beat out
Yeah.
Forrest Shaw.
My word.
Yeah, there's been a whole lineup
Do
of folk.
hickeys.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Vince Newer.
Vito's.
The Vito's.
Great big pile of leaves.
Great big pile of leaves. Yeah, I feel like
Oh my
they
God.
probably won't ever come on again.
No. But welcome back. I missed the first time you were here. I was protesting Trudeau in Ottawa. So.
Wait,
Yeah.
you were just out there honking horns and
Yeah, I was
shaking
late,
hands?
actually.
He was,
Yeah.
like, he was like almost 9 months late. It was crazy.
I
Oh my
reject
God.
regular mail because it's the Canadian Postal Service, so run by the government. So I don't fuck around with mail. So yeah, everything came late to me.
That's awesome. You know what? I like a good protest. I don't even care what side. I just like to fuck with people now. I'm not interested in politics. I just like disagreeing with people all the time. It's very funny.
I also like that because I think that we need more of that just mindless shit disturbing. We don't have enough of that nowadays.
Sometimes it's just fun to be like, sure.
It's
Okay.
so much fun to just go, I actually disagree, and watching people just be like, fucking what?
I honestly thought we were protesting truckers. And so, like I was like, oh yeah, fuck those guys. So I was,
Here's
that
what
was
I've
my-
decided. I don't have a moral compass. I just do whatever I think is the funniest thing to do. Sometimes it's agreeing with a person who wants to be disagreed with.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's disagreeing with a person who's never been disagreed with. I think I just like to bug people.
It's kind of fun being a contrarian.
It's sort of
I don't
fun.
know. There's something about that just like, it's so funny because Siobhan's dad is 100% a contrarian, and he's like he's now painfully retired, so he needs something to do. So he just will start arguments at the dinner table about shit that it doesn't matter.
I love that.
And I've given up. I'm like, you know what? It's so much fun watching it happen to other people, but when I see it start to happen to me, I just go, no, you know what? You're right. I never thought about it that way. And he just like goes, fuck that shit.
Short circuits today. That's funny.
I also like to play I Believe What You Believe just for a
Oh.
day. It's just fun.
It is fun.
Because I don't really care.
I've done that and learned so much about people that I've went, oh.
I know.
I found out an Uber driver of mine was very very believed in flat Earth.
Yeah. I love a flat Earth. When somebody comes out with.
Fun.
Because what? I don't know. I haven't researched.
I've never been to the Arctic or the Antarctic. I can't fucking clarify this. I can't with 100% confidence say that you're wrong.
I've never seen the wall
Yeah.
of ice stopping us.
It looks flat to me. I get it.
Right?
I don't know. As someone who grew up mostly in the prairies, I think it is a pretty flat
It
Earth.
makes sense. Yeah, like I've been to Saskatchewan. Yeah.
Oh God, it's fun.
Everybody in Saskatchewan's flat earth. Makes sense now. Yeah.
If you've seen your dog run away for 3 days, it makes sense.
It's just fun to be like, oh, let's learn today. We're gonna learn today.
And you know what? It's fun when it's an Uber driver because I'm like, my life is in your hands.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm in a small town, I just get off stage. I'm like, this is not a town for disagreeing.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I had that happen recently. I went to a gun range in a small town.
Oh yeah, I look at my watch and I go, looks like I'm gonna have your opinions for 30 minutes and then I'm gonna go to bed. I'm not here to fight the good fight.
That's so fucking true. But it was so funny because I went to this gun range and we were talking about because there's like a limit on like the amount of firepower you could use there.
Yeah.
Because the back of the range was facing the Trans-Canada. So like you basically could shoot with like a fucking slug, for a shotgun.
God.
And so I'm talking to the guy, and then I was like, yeah, well, this would be great for zombies. He's like, yeah, or liberals. And I was like, why, yes, you do. And he goes, well, they're both brainless. And then he goes, ha, ha, ha. And I was like, ha, 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 yes, I have a gun, luckily.
Just saying things. You're like, sheeple, right, the worst, cucks, Believe.
Chemtrails.
Am I doing what you're doing? Oh God, please say I'm doing what you're doing.
Please say I'm doing it right, because I have no idea where to go here.
I have
I mean,
no.
I was reading Rebel News, and I saw this story.
So I turn on, Breitbart. So, okay, we are a music podcast, but I want to ask this because it's music adjacent.
Sure.
You recently had an album come out.
Oh my God, I did.
Woo! Sophomore album.
My sophomoric sense of humor album, more like, is really what it is. Yeah, I just released an album. It's called Break and Enter.
Yeah.
With Comedy Records and Little Robot out in Victoria, which is run by the Hecklers guys.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm really proud of this one. The first one was I think it was my first one, and it stressed me out, and I didn't, and I listened to this one, and I can hear a growth and some, it feels different.
I totally get that, and it sounds different too. Like, it's funny because last year we were going to Cranbrook or something, and you were like, yeah, I think my next album, I want to record it in Victoria, and I was like, that'd be pretty fucking sick, actually. and you were talking about it though, and you were like, yeah, like how you were just wanting to do something different, and then listening to it, I was like, yeah, this is Brittany, but this is done different. Like, it feels very fresh. It's a fucking, first off, the audio quality on that album is miles above what you generally see in comedy albums in Canada.
Right.
And like, granted, that might be partially Comedy Records, but I think also it's just like that fucking room itself, Hecklers, is a perfect space. It's
incredible. I also will give a shout out to Paul. Peruche. We used to record for Sirius XM.
Oh, sick.
He was like one of their lead recorders. So he's our audio engineers. So we just kind of lucked out. It was not luck. It was Dan Duvall being the wizard of connecting people and making things happen.
He's really good at that.
He's like this amazing dude who just you just have a dream and he sort of just facilitates it.
It's funny because you say that, and I see it happen with him online a lot, where he's constantly like, yo, look at this other person's project. Isn't this dope? And then you find out he helped out on it. And you're like,
yeah, and quietly in the background.
Like he doesn't take credit for it. That's really
no,
cool.
And really what he did was he just sort of facilitated everything. So he got a hold of Paul. He connected me with Comedy Records. He just did a lot of background work. He hosted the album.
Oh, that's so good.
So I mean, he was a really, really big part of it. And I think it sounds different because and this might kind of flow into what we're talking about today, but I did it how I wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel pressure in any way, or they let me play it the way I wanted to play it. I didn't cut much.
Nice.
I just kind of wanted it to sound like one kind of fluid thought, and then it sounds like that.
Which is good, because that's exactly how it feels when, as an audience member watching you live, that's how it feels. It feels like it's one thought,
Yeah, that's my hope.
Hour, you know?
That's my hope. So the fact that translated is nothing but a shout out to everybody that helped me do it.
Well, that's fucking amazing. Yeah. So I have a random question about this. Sure. So how did because your first album was with 604.
Yeah.
And your new one is with Comedy Records. What was I guess the thought to transition to Comedy Records, and what was the what was the benefit of doing that, in your opinion?
Just being with a different company?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it comes down to really a percentage of what's being taken.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's, a 50-50 split for some places, and other places don't agree with that. So, I'm not running a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
And that was important to me, and there was just a bunch of different things. I felt more connected to the Victoria scene, and we got to do it out there, and it was, and then Comedy Records was I don't know, it's just sort of a different animal. So. Well,
and it's interesting too, because they're all over the place. They have offices in Miami, New York, Toronto, right? They're kind of all over.
Yeah, not to say that. I mean, truly, in the beginning, 604 was fantastic. They really did do a great job. They were so helpful, and they were so willing to work with me and let me do what I wanted. But I just was such a new comic when I did that. I'll always feel forever new. I'll say this in 10 years. I'll say I was so new when I did my second album. But but I just knew different things, and Barry Taylor seems to have a grasp on the industry. So, and comedy specifically, he is a comedy specific record label. So that's their focus, and
I think that's a big thing that like you can tell in the difference too is like because 604 is everything, it's music and comedy, right? And like 604 is still great, like it's awesome to get those opportunities. Don't get me wrong, but it is much better when you have something that's very specific for your art form. It sets it above.
Yeah, it was just a different experience for sure. So yeah, I'm very grateful for both, and I'll always be grateful for 604 being my first.
Well, one thing I think was special that you noted is that you kind of got to do this one your way. You got to. Yeah. You had that final say by the sounds of it, so that's super special.
Well, we did it at the first one we did at Yuck Yucks in Vancouver, and I got there and they were recording another compilation album the same night.
Ooh.
And there was like 8 people before me.
Oh, fuck.
And not to mention 8 people doing 5 to 7 minutes of their best material, and they were the best comics in the region. So if you can flow off that, that's great. That's a wave. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like anybody who wants somebody shitty opening for them, I hate that more than anything in the world. But I mean, I was like, wow, like in my head at the time on this first album, am I gonna get buried by the entire Vancouver scene? Was what I was thinking. And after they're up there for like an hour, like smashing, like, and I'm like, oh my God. So it was a different vibe. And then this one really was just like Dale Ward was on it, Dan Duvall was on it, Nash Park was there, just
nice.
Some of my favorite people in the world. So we just got to do it
and
our little way.
Also, I'll say this, because Dale has hosted both of my albums that I've done.
Yeah.
He sets it up fucking amazingly. Like, not that he was hosting, but like even opening on a show like that, he's so fucking, like, he's done it for so many people now that he just knows exactly what to do.
Well,
and he's so comfortable with himself on stage.
And I just trust, it was all just people I trust, you know what I mean? Like, there was just a lot of love in the room, so I think that makes a difference.
Totally. So, okay, so now Break and Enter.
Yes, sir.
Available Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes.
Yeah, anywhere you go.
Amazon Music.
I think so.
Amazon Music.
I think so. Amazon Prime.
Because this is a smooth transition. We have something very exciting to announce today. We have been accepted into Acast and Amazon Music's program, which is promoting independent podcasts in Canada.
Yeah.
So super excited about that. We're really thankful they're going to be promoting us a lot over the next month, which I still kind of can't believe. I woke up this morning, I was like, well, that's a good email to get.
and shout out to you, Spencer. You always are submitting us to fucking stuff all the time. So
yeah,
I appreciate it.
It's what I do 90% of my day. It's just
all the background work. Yeah, all the background work. I'm all giddy. He messaged me this morning, and all I could respond was exclamation points. Yeah. I was like, yeah.
I sent a screenshot of the email, and I was like, boy! And then Aaron's just like,
But I'm happy. It's super exciting.
Well, congrats, boys.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. Everybody in Canada will get to see our podcast. If they're an Amazon Music subscriber, we'll be on the front page. And
really?
Yeah, and so we're hoping that'll help us get a big old bumperoo.
And on a separate note, now that we're working with Amazon, I take back everything about Amazon. I love you, Jeff Bezos.
Honestly,
you're the best.
I think that unions are disgusting.
The worst, dude.
The worst.
Who needs to take a piss at work? Get the fuck out of here.
You're getting paid fucking $8 an hour. Pee your pants.
Yeah, fold those boxes. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
Pull up your
fuck out of here.
Pull up your bootstraps.
Yeah, pull up your bootstraps.
Quit your crying.
All right, so every episode on the podcast, though, we are a music history podcast, and every episode we review an album. Sometimes it's one of our favorites, sometimes it's a very popular one, sometimes it's a crossover. This week, it's one that we knew you would enjoy.
Yes.
So I wanted to invite you back on, because for those that haven't listened, Brittany was episode 5 of the podcast. And now we're at 47. So,
Wow! Holy!
yeah.
Wow!
Yeah, we've come a long way. We've come a long way from my living room. Yeah, so wanted to have you back on. And this week, as the title says, we are reviewing Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys.
Yes.
Legendary fucking album. Woo-hoo. That's all I had to say.
Oh, I thought you were gonna keep
No,
going.
you get it.
Oh, okay. So Pet Sounds is the 11th studio album by the American rock band The Beach Boys. It was released on May 16th, 1966 by Capitol Records, and it was recorded between July 12th of 65 and April 13th of 66. That is a very quick turnaround for vinyl pressing, I must say. Like a month?
You know what's crazy is that they formed in 1961.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
11
11 studio,
albums.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Some of them are like Christmas albums and like
Yeah.
like, there's some bullshit. There's some bullshit in there, but yeah, they had 11 albums.
I feel like a
at-
Brian
to this
Wilson
point.
Christmas album would be very interesting.
Oh my! Just the that 11 albums in under 10 years is the result of a dad's consistent abuse,
Yes.
isn't it?
If I had to do 11 albums,
I knew exactly where you were going with it, and I was like, we're getting there.
That's just a frying pan to the head.
Oh, 100%.
Just-
That is so much bottled up trauma and not being good enough.
well, like if I had to do 11 albums in 6 years, I would fall asleep for 3 years straight too.
Oh,
I'd lay
yeah.
in bed and do nothing.
In my room, yeah.
Oh, you know what? The lying in bed, just like Brian Wilson did.
Yes.
That makes so much more sense now.
Everybody makes him sound nuts, but that sounds like the greatest thing.
It really does. I mean, like, fucking, I wanted to do that during COVID.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't that
Yeah.
COVID?
That was
That
COVID.
Yeah.
would have been fucking great. But instead, I had to be active and do things and further my career. I
Fuck
couldn't
no.
just fucking sleep all day.
I smoked pot and played League of Legends.
Oh, dude,
and then I woke
love
up.
that.
I woke up and I was like 24, and I was like, "What happened?"
I had to watch fucking thousands of short films, most of them very bad.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Siobhan did it better though, because she would watch like 2 minutes and then be like, "This isn't good." I would watch through the whole fucking thing and be like, "Is it going to get good?" It never did. This album's genre has been described as the following: progressive pop, art pop, chamber pop, and psychedelic pop. A lot of pop, not a lot of rock there.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And, which is weird because Wouldn't It Be Nice, Paul McCartney has said, is the best rock song of all time. So
I mean, he does. I don't know. Rock is such a weird. Like, you ask anybody what their version of rock is, they're gonna give you a different answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even early Beatles stuff compared to rock now.
oh yeah.
Would you say that was rock or pop? You know
I
what I
would
mean?
say their early stuff was definitely rock. I would say like their later stuff, it got a little fishy.
Yeah.
You know? Like it was like they started off really strong with like twist and shout. I'm like, yeah, fucking go.
Rock. But I mean, Beach Boys is like, I don't know. I don't know that I'd be like, this is a rock and roll album.
Yeah, I would categorize this as a rock and roll album.
No, I don't think I
No.
would.
No, it's so orchestral and like
Yeah.
like it's not for me. It doesn't. There's no like even the drums aren't really backing tracks. Like the drums are not
Yeah.
prominent in any of the tracks either. They have like large timpanis and shit.
Yeah, I was gonna
Just
say.
Sleigh bells.
Yeah, and sleigh.
It's
well,
like-
An orange juice cup.
yeah, well, so he incorporates elements of pop, jazz, exotica, classical, and avant-garde. Wilson's wall of sound-based orchestrations mix conventional rock setups with elaborate layers of vocal harmonies, found sounds, and instruments rarely ever associated with rock, such as bicycle bells, French horns, flutes, electro-theremin, string sections, and beverage cans. There you go.
There you go. There's your orange,
There's
orange
my
juice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nuts how all the different stuff. Like I was talking to Brittany beforehand here. I watched the movie Love and Mercy.
Oh, nice.
With, Paul Dano and John Cusack and Elizabeth Banks, and yeah, at one point he goes like, when he's making Smile, he's going crazy and he's wearing like a fireman's hat. I'm talking about everybody's wearing fireman's hats and like playing fucking weird shit. Yeah, so.
Oh my
Interesting thing. Anyways.
Well, one of the things that I thought was really funny is when I was deep diving into it, I found out that in Wouldn't It Be Nice there was 2 fucking accordions playing,
Oh yeah.
and I'm like, Okay, first off, who puts one accordion in a song, much less two of them, you know? Like,
Buddy.
it just felt so strange. But it is weird because, yeah, I wouldn't even say, like, track to track it follows the same genre.
Not at all, dude.
Like, it's so fucking, it's such a jarring shift when you listen to this album. Like, I have All Summer Long on vinyl. I listened to that fucking album a ton when I lived in Toronto. It was my beach bum jam, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, I just remember, like, you know, when I think of the Beach Boys, that's what I think of, you know?
Right.
Like, I think of, like, Get Around, you know? I think of, like, stuff that's, like...
Do It Again.
Do It Again,
Yeah.
you know? Wendy, you know? Things like that. And then hearing this, it was just, like, every song was just, like, okay, what fucking drug was he on when he wrote this or conceived this, you know?
But you know what I find, if you like listen to this album, like, yeah, like musically, every song is different. Lyrically, there's such a contrast between what's happening musically, because the music is so complex, and you're like seeing this guy who's like seeing in colors. You know what I mean? He's like it's nothing anybody's ever done before. He's creating a genre. He's making something, and then lyrically, it's so simplistic, and he's so genuine in how he's feeling at this point that you're like listening to this madness happen behind him, and then he's just
So that's an interesting point. So Tony Asher helped write the lyrics.
Okay.
With Brian Wilson. So there's two fun facts here. One I'll say here is the number of unique instruments averaged for 12 per song. Just so we're aware. But Tony Asher, he was a copywriter for advertising, and he was writing jingles for Mattel, like toys.
Right.
And he ran into Brian Wilson in studio. He described they ran into each other at the water cooler. He's like, holy fuck, that's Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. They started talking about music. They became friends. Brian rang him up, asked him to help him write the lyrics for the album, and he kind of helped Brian put into words what he was trying to feel.
Right.
So he was like a jingle writer. So that kind of touches on that little simplistic sort of nature of the
like it is like I don't know what a right word, like it is very simplistic. It's very almost juvenile in parts.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're listening to like somebody feel not old enough and feel not like out of place, and then he also talks about wanting this to be like, when you hear him talk about what he wanted it to be, he's like, I just wanted people to feel happy.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you didn't want me to bawl my eyes out during Caroline No?
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Or like, what was the one I was listening to this morning that, okay, so there was a few that that stood out to me that I was like, why the fuck was this not a single? But one of them was, Today, what's it called? It's something Today. Here Today. But, yeah, but it was like, I was just like, this is such a sad song about not, ending up with somebody that you love. That fucking sucks. Why are you so happy? Like,
you know what's interesting too? Like, arguably their biggest single, "Good Vibrations," they didn't put it on this album. It was completely written, and Brian Wilson said, "No, I don't want it on the album." So it's very interesting that that's like one of their bigger hits. And it wasn't on the album. They decided to cut it from the album.
I will say, does everyone else here associate that song with creepy fucking things? Because for some reason, every time I hear Good Vibrations, I just imagine like a montage of like a serial killer in like a Rob Zombie movie. Like I get like the worst images when I hear that song. I'm like, this is so creepy. I think maybe it's because Vanilla Sky fucked me up. That movie really fucked me up. I'm still not sure you guys aren't figments of my imagination.
You're like, I don't know what is anything.
I don't know what is anything, honestly.
What's the woo?
Oh, theremin.
The theremin, yeah. Yeah, that's my favorite song, Good Vibrations.
I feel like, speaking of the theremin, I don't know why, but I really want to do like a crowdfunding thing within the Calgary comedy community where we get one for Sam Benty.
There's one at the Bell Music Center.
There is. I fucked around with it.
Me too.
I did the fucking thing with it. And I filmed it and I posted it, and then Benty messaged me and he's like, I'm so sad that I did not think of this first. Okay, so
for much of the album.
Yeah, much of the album's pessimistic and dejected lyrical content was inspired by Wilson's marital struggles. According to Ashner, he and Wilson had many lengthy, intimate discussions centered around their experiences and feelings about women and the various stages of relationships and so forth in order to inspire subject matter for their songs.
Oh.
Which, that makes sense.
Another fun Brian Wilson fact, his wife, when they were married, she was 16.
Yeah.
He was like 21, yeah, and then when he was writing this album, he was like 22, I believe, and yeah, she was like 17 or 18 years old. Yeah, his first wife.
Fuck.
My advice to anybody who wants to continue loving their heroes, don't go look at their
Don't look at
past.
the past, yeah.
It was the
It's
60s,
not
that
worth
was
it.
normal. That was normal back then.
It could have been for tax reasons.
Yeah.
Because that's literally like a lot of couples would get married for tax reasons because it was then like you could get like a huge like 50% write off on your taxes. So fucking I don't know, maybe it was tax reasons.
I don't know, my grandparents were like 15 when they got married.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle were like 17 and 20. Like they
It
were.
was the
Yeah,
60s.
I think my grandma was 14.
I was actually married at 13.
I was 8, but who's counting?
I'm Jerry Lee Lewis's cousin.
I came out of the womb with the wedding ring on. It's not my fault.
Have you heard of an arranged marriage? Come on now. It's not my fault. I was in a Hunter colony. Okay, Pet Sounds revolutionized music production and the role of professional sound producers, especially through Wilson's pioneering theory that the studio is an instrument in itself. What I think is interesting about that is something that so this is a random fun fact, but so when All Summer Long came out, Paul McCartney and John Lennon listened to it on repeat like for nights in a row and were just like, I can't believe how fucking good this is.
Yeah.
And it inspired them to do Rubber Soul and Revolver, which is funny because those albums inspired Brian Wilson a lot. And so it's like this loop of like them doing this. But what I wanted to bring up is that in the Get Back documentary, they're initially in that like terrible sound stage, right? And they're talking about what they want to record on. And John Lennon's like, well, we need an 8-track because the Beach Boys recorded on an 8-track. And then they're like, yeah, but I don't know if we can afford it. He's like, we got to do it. It's gonna be the only thing that'll make it sound good. You know, the studio itself is an instrument. So, like, he literally said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, they had that rivalry. Like, I did write about it a little bit later. But, like, yeah, he heard Rubber Soul, Brian Wilson, and was like, I want to beat this album. I want to make a better album. He thought it was the perfect album. Yeah. And one thing that I noted later on, too, is that Rubber Soul is one of the first albums that, like, he described it having no filler.
Right.
So, like, they used to make albums to sell singles. The singles were worth more. You sell 45 of singles, and you'd make more money than selling an album itself, right? You'd make more money selling the album itself with the singles on it, and all the rest of the tracks were fillers. But he set out when he made Pet Sounds to make an album with no filler. Everything's a hit. He wanted all the best material he could make on this album, and he was inspired from the Beatles to do that. And then the Beatles were inspired by him to make Sgt. Pepper off of this album. So
which is my favorite Beatles record.
Yeah, it's a weird back and forth like thing they have going on.
For every action, there's a reaction.
Yeah.
There's like this thing too, though. That it wasn't out of spite. It was out of respect.
Yeah.
Which I think is incredible. Like, I mean, there's a million things that like bands being compared to one another. Like, I mean, even the Stones and the Beatles, and then the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and they're all trying to just be better than each other, but not in a way to drown the other. Just being like, I just heard the greatest thing I've ever heard.
Which
Let's
is, like,
make something better.
I wish we had more of in like I don't know artistic fields. You know, I think like the whole like Hollywood and music industry really makes that hard to do because of the idea that like you got to reach a certain level, and so people don't like.
Well, they want to sell you. They want you're a product.
Exactly.
But these guys didn't act like products.
These guys didn't act like products.
Brian Wilson was dinged out on acid, wearing a fireman's hat. He's like, you ding this orange juice container against the wall. Can you imagine being the money guy in this? You're the guy coming in. Everyone's in fire hats.
You're the studio Capitol Records. We're like, what the fuck? This album cost $630,000. What the fuck?
And Brian Wilson's like, I'm not going on the road. I'm staying here to make magic. And everyone's, God, don't make magic. Make hits.
The funniest thing is imagining a session musician drummer coming in, and he's like, where are the drums? And all of a sudden he just goes,
No, sir, you're playing the bongos today.
Against the wall. I call it my Wilson Wall of Sound.
Everyone's like, oh, God. Can you imagine the stories of going, how's the album going, honey? Well...
Today I banged an orange juice cup off of a wall, and then I had to fill it up for his kid to drink out of, and then I started banging again after.
Brian's like, reminds me of my childhood.
Holy fuck.
Anyway, speaking of session musicians, the album featured over 60 different session musicians.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
That's
two of
crazy.
those were accordion players.
Yeah. Okay, scroll down. I'm gonna do some reading here.
Okay, so
You can skip that part.
skip this part.
So, although not included in the majority of the recording, one thing we forgot to mention is worth mentioning. This is all composed and produced by Brian Wilson. I'm sure we've hinted at it a bunch, but the other guys in the Beach Boys were not really included. They were on tour in Japan, they were on tour overseas, and he stayed home. He quit touring to make this album. In the movie, he's like, I'm going to stay here and make some magic. So,
Isn't it funny, too, that he was like, he's like, finally, get these fucking idiots out of here. Can you imagine
especially
being
that Mike Love.
I was going to say, can you imagine being a genius and Mike Love's like, I say we do more songs about fucking sand, and he's like, can't go on tour. Get out of here.
So the other members that were featured on the album were featured...
You'll never be one of the brothers. Al Jardine's more related to us than you.
It's true. So, speaking of Al Jardine, he's the second tenor, the baritone harmony vocals. Bruce Johnson, who is Brian's replacement on tour, he comes in to record. He's second tenor, first tenor harmony. Mike Love, who we all love to hate, was bass harmony vocals. Brian Wilson is the first tenor falsetto harmony vocals. Carl Wilson, second tenor vocals, and Dennis Wilson, baritone harmony vocals. So I have some background here on the album. A little bit of interesting stuff. Oh shit! I'm just fucking everything
Yeah, you're
up.
fucking it up. It's okay. I'll control the mouse.
You can. So we mentioned. Prior to Pet Sounds, the Beach Boys had ditched their themed lyrics and songs on the previous album. They began experimenting. They began experimenting on Beach Boys Today. They ditched the Cars, Sand, and Girls songs. They became geniuses overnight, actually. Wilson quit touring in early 1965, and he views Pet Sounds effectively as a solo album. And credited
As he should.
He credited its inspirations to be marijuana and a newfound spiritual enlightenment. During his first LSD trip in 1965, Wilson considered it a very religious experience and claimed he saw God.
I don't want to sing about the water, Mike. I hate the water. I have schizophrenia.
Yeah. Well, he soon began suffering from auditory hallucinations. And for the remainder of the year, experienced considerable paranoia. Wilson believed the LSD influenced the writing of Pet Sounds because it brought out some sort of the insecurities in me, which I think went into the music. We talked about this earlier. Additionally, galvanized by the work of Phil Spector and the Beatles on Rubber Soul, his goal was to create the greatest rock album ever made, one without filler.
Do yourself a favor and don't dive into Spector's past either.
I was gonna say, originally, when I was writing this thing, it said that Phil Spector was his hero. And I was like, well, I think that might have changed at some point in time.
No, I read a book recently written, hero to this day.
Really?
What are you gonna do? You gonna change your heroes because he blasts one broad away?
You know what? That's we don't know the whole story.
It's true. With Pet Sounds, Wilson desired to make a complete statement similar to what the Beatles had done on their newest album, Rubber Soul, released the year prior. Wilson was impressed with the album because it lacked filler. Okay, this is already stuff we said. Wilson and Asher also cited classic American love songs from the catalog of Cole Porter and Rodgers and Hammersmith, so Broadway stuff, as inspirations for the album. Also taking inspiration from Duke Ellington,
Nice.
Lionel Hampton, and the arrangements of the early hit music that came out of the Tin Pan Alley in New York in the early 1900s to the 1930s.
Ooh.
So that's like
Wow.
original big tracks of the time. I'm sure we all know them and love them.
Yeah.
Yeah, name some.
Number one.
Number one. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Yeah,
Hello, my great
I
time.
think
Yeah.
that's one of them. So, like we mentioned
Oklahoma.
Wilson viewed this as a solo album, and he never played any of the music for the other members while they were on tour, except for Love, who'd been previewed a couple tracks over the phone. When they returned to the studio on February 9th, so this is like almost done the album, they were presented with a substantial portion of the album with the music that was in many ways a jarring departure from their earlier style. According to various reports, the group fought over the new direction. However, Dennis denied that anyone in the group disliked Pet Sounds, calling the rumors interesting. He said that there was not one person in the group that could come close to Brian's talent. Carl supported those accusations, said that they were bullshit before adding, "We love the record, everybody loved the record. It was such a joy to make." Jardine differed in his recollection.
Yeah, Jardine stayed pretty, like, on Brian's side throughout all of this, does he not? Like,
Yeah.
he's a little more...
Well, he was honest. Like, the other guy said that it didn't, like, they didn't dislike it. They all had problems with the album, yeah.
What do you think that phone call to Mike Love sounded like? Do you think he was like, what do
Hey,
you think
motherfucker, look what I did that you can't do.
He's like, hey, you fucking idiot. You want to hear what music sounds like?
How's Osaka, fuckface? I'm gonna Osaka this music through the phone to you.
Nice.
Can you Hiroshima clearly there?
Good ones.
Keeps coming up with them.
Here, I need to take a Tokyo.
Oh, God, stop now.
Rein it in there, cowboy. Rein it in, all right?
Nagasaki.
You're being the Mike Love of the podcast right now.
I was quiet for like 4 minutes because I couldn't stop fucking laughing about sand. So I don't know.
So Jardine differed in his recollection. He said, "I wasn't exactly thrilled with the change in musical sound, but I grew to really appreciate it as soon as we started to work on the album." He explained that it took quite a while to adjust to the material because it wasn't what you could necessarily dance to. It was more like music you could make love to, is what he said. He remembered that Love was generally very confused about the album. Mike's a formula hound. If it doesn't have a hook in it, if he can't hear a hook in it, he doesn't want to know about it.
I have a question. How does this guy fuck if that's how he makes, like, this is music for him to make love to?
I was going to say.
Like, I wanna cry. also the fucking drums in that one song where it's just like boom, 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 boom. Like, what the fuck?
He's like, I can't help myself but come at 1,000,000 miles per hour when I hear the sound of a bicycle horn and a dog barking.
Holy shit. Maybe that's why it's called Pet Sounds.
What?
Because it sounds like pets fucking.
Pardon?
Maybe.
So this quote made me laugh.
My pretend shock.
What?
Feigning shock.
So this one made me laugh when he was there, so I'm going to skip some of the stuff because it's just talking about how the band felt about it. But it was also noted that the bandmates struggled to understand what Brian was going through emotionally and what he wanted to create. Asher remembered, he was one of the writers. All those guys in the band, certainly Al, Dennis, and Mike, were constantly saying, "What the fuck do those words mean?" This isn't our kind of shit. And Brian had comebacks, so he'd said, "Oh, you guys can't hack this or what?" But I can remember thinking that those were some tense recording sessions. You guys don't get me, huh? You can't hack that?
You can't hack it? I don't know what these words mean. Really? You don't know I feel sad? You don't know what that means, Mike? You're a sociopath.
You don't know God only knows?
I'm not rhyming Kokomo with 1,000,000 things.
You don't get that?
You don't get it, Mike?
So, notwithstanding such remarks, Asher said that Brian's bandmates never really challenged Brian or the direction of the group because they felt they weren't talented enough to make such judgments. So at least they're realistic. Yeah.
I'm surrounded by a sea of idiots.
Play the orange juice jug.
The more that I like find out about this album, the more I'm like, oh, this was a band of Ringos and one Paul. They're like, help us, feed us with your talent, please.
And to this day, Mike Love is still a little salty about it. He said he would have liked to have had a greater hand in some of the songs and been able to incorporate more more of his lead vocals, which they had so much success with.
And for their best-selling album, I think it's a good thing he had less to do with it.
As much as there is a genius to Bermuda, Bahama, Come On Pretty Mama, I feel happy Brian was a little heavy-handed in the making of the Pet Sounds.
So notable tracks, I kind of wrote them all because they're all very notable. So it starts.
Yeah, you did do the entire track list.
Yeah, it starts with "Wouldn't It Be Nice," "You Still Believe in Me," "That's Not Me," "Don't Talk," brackets, "Put Your Head on My Shoulder," "I'm Waiting for the Day."
Which I think "I'm Waiting for the Day" is my favorite song on the album. Especially the end of it, I'm like, this is a fucking pump up song.
Yeah.
"Let's Go Away for a While." This is an instrumental, which I have a great memory too. When we first moved in together when we were living in Toronto, we went down to the beaches and we skateboarded down, which is like, it was not a short ride. It was like over an hour.
Yeah, I almost got hit by a car.
Yeah, Spencer was like bombing a hill and like almost
The car
got nailed
pulled
by a
out, and I
car.
fucking had to like slide my ass over the hood to not fall because I was going way too fast to stop. I was like, well, fuck.
And like I lived in like suburban Calgary for most of my life. So this is like very eye-opening to me that we're like cruising down the middle of downtown Toronto. Anyways,
Let's go right down Yonge Street.
Yeah, we got
On
to
a
the
skateboard.
We got to the beach, and I was always stoned at that point in my life, but I was very stoned, and I was listening to "Let's Go Away for a While," and we got picked up by like road bikers. They helped us to hold on, and while we were riding, and they rode us down to the beach of the ice cream store.
I forgot about that.
To the ice cream store, yeah. So I have like a
Nicest.
really happy memory with that.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, because we were just like cruising behind them. Because I was like, oh, can we get a lift? And the guy was like, sure. And I thought he was joking, so I grabbed onto his backpack. And then Aaron grabbed onto the other guy behind him. And they just fucking took us all the way down the boardwalk, or on the like walkway there. We were just like, whoa, this is so sick.
Yeah, no,
So
it was
nice.
It was it's a good story. Then Sloop John B is another one.
Sloop John B's my fave, I think.
Yeah, I love that song too. God Only Knows, which is Paul
Oh.
McCartney's favorite song of
I was
all
gonna say I
time.
might Sloop John B and God Only Knows.
Is there a better back-to-back track listing?
No.
Yeah.
God Only Knows is like when you hear Brian talk about that too, is like it's just like makes you want to cry your eyes out.
And it's also like it really does feel like spiritual. Like you listen to that song and you're just like, whoa, you really love this person.
Yeah. It's gorgeous.
No, it's one of the best songs of all time. I'm super fond of that one. That's probably my favorite on the album. I do also like Sloop John B quite a bit as well.
Sloop John B, I tied to my dad always used to play in the car, and he'd like my dad has like a pretty good voice, and he'd always like sing with it, and it just there's something about that and that moment, and it's just kind of a cool story. Like the flow of Sloop John B is like, yeah, just him and his grandfather, and they're out on a boat, and they're just, you know what I mean? Like it's pretty
just a
cool.
happy one,
It's a good one.
It's a good
I
one.
like Sloop John B.
This is the worst trip I've ever been on.
Again, the lyrics contrasting the music again.
And then Here Today.
I Just Wasn't Made for These Times also hit me. I was like, whoa, that's a fucking great song.
Yo, that hit me because I've been power listening over the last week, and that one has hit me the most because I'm like, that's very like that's sort of a timeless song because I think that in every generation and every moment people are going to feel like I'm not made for this, it's going too fast, or I belong somewhere else, and that is like that song is so like right now feels chaotic,
and it's like so evergreen because he didn't make any like specific references to like anything that would be like historically setting it in that time.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it's very like it's specific enough that you can relate to it, but being vague enough that it's always gonna be fresh.
Well, it also feels like one of the songs that are truest to Brian's soul. Like you listen to it and you see the title, like it just kind of makes sense that he would write that song. Like I just wasn't made for these times. It just makes sense. And then of course it finishes with Pet Sounds, which is an instrumental, and Caroline No. I Know There's an Answer as well. That's in there as one of the tracks, but. That's the whole track listing. I mean, the song. It's an amazing album.
It's a fucking great album. Also, tight fucking runtime. My God.
It's not. Yeah, it's
13
not a long.
tracks and it's like 32 minutes or 35.
37.
37
on the
tracks.
That's
nuts.
crazy.
And I was like, I've literally been looping it. Like I've been power listening to it for like the
Me
past
too.
week as well, and like it's just like, goddamn, like. as soon as it starts over again, I'm like, I'm ready for this journey again.
Yeah.
You know, like
because it feels different every time.
yeah.
I wore my Jeff Beck shirt because
Nice.
he just did a like before he died. That was one of the last remakes he ever made was Caroline No.
Really?
Yep, on his last album.
Holy shit. That's really cool.
And it's because Jeff Beck like plays in such a specific. It just sounds like his guitar is singing it. You can feel the way that song is like interpreted through that way.
Oh yeah.
But it's not a song that I ever liked until I heard Beck play it, and then went back and listened to the Beach Boys sing it, and I was like, oh, he's right. This will rip your soul out. This song.
Oh yeah. It absolutely is just fucking soul crushing.
Yeah.
And all the harmonies, which we haven't talked much about, but they're so impressive on the entire album. Like,
oh yeah.
It's some of the best sounding vocals I've ever heard, hands down. Yeah.
Which tells me Mike Love really good as a backing vocalist.
Yeah.
well, they all kind of like I know on God Only Knows. It's one of his brothers that features as the vocalist, and I mean it.
I think it's Carl.
Yeah, it's Carl. Yeah, he suits the song so well, and like Brian said, he wrote that for his voice. So, I mean, the way he not only writes music as a whole, but writes for people in the band, it's so impressive.
Which is like sort of a departure from what you would think is that he's being this like egotistical narcissist and like doing it exactly how he wants it. But when you step away from it and look at it and you're like, no, he's doing it in this like, this Carl would, I'm writing this so he sounds good at this. And this is, he's making, like he's creating a masterpiece and removing himself from the parts he doesn't feel. Like he's like, I'm not a touring guy. You don't need me there. You need me here.
Yeah.
You don't need me on this song. You need Carl.
Which is interesting too, like around the time that they started making more complex studio works, the Beatles did the exact same thing. They stopped touring and they started making like studio only albums like, that could not be repeated on stage. You can't repeat this album on stage. It's like you have 60 session musicians. You have like I don't know how many freaking takes. Like Sloop John B took 3 months to do the vocals on it, like,
right?
On repeat. So like to think about, you know, that parody as well. They're both kind of doing the exact same thing. Where the Beatles, the same sort of time, they stopped touring, started making more expansive studio albums. Wilson did the same thing while the band went and fucked off and went on tour.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna make a studio album that exactly what I've been pictured in my mind. Some say that he was hearing it before it came out, but that same sort of thing, right?
All right, so we're in the last 10 minutes. We got to get through reception.
Oh, don't
and
rush
review.
it. Who cares? We're in reception. We're in reception here. So at the time, the album was...
I'm also the producer now. I have to say these things.
At the time, the album was not well received commercially or critically in the U.S., generally receiving negative feedback regarding the change in sound and the content of the lyrics. Simultaneously, though, it received an overwhelming positive reviews and sales in the UK. So there was like a duality of it going on. The album also divided fellow musicians at the time. Spencer Davis of the Spencer Davis Group said, Brian Wilson is a great record producer. I haven't spent so much time listening to a Beach Boys album before, but I'm a fan now, and I just want to listen to this LP again and again and again. Eric Clapton, at the time, who was in Cream, reported that everyone in the band loved the album, adding that Wilson was without a doubt a pop genius. Andy Long Oldham told the magazine, this is from an article from a magazine I read, I think that Pet Sounds is the most progressive album in years. And then there's some negative. There were some negative reviews too. So Manfred Mann's Mike Dabo and the Walker brothers Scott Walker did not agree that the album was revolutionary. Dabo and Walker favored the Beach Boys' earlier work. Pete Townsend of The Who, opinion that the Beach Boys' new material is too remote and way out. It's written for a feminine audience.
Because their boy band stuff from years past was not.
And then Mick Jagger stated that he disliked the songs but enjoyed the record and its harmonies, while John Lennon said that Wilson was doing some really great things.
He's doing some very great things.
In classic form, Mick Jagger says another thing I fucking hate. Why didn't they skip him and ask Keith what he thought?
Yeah, and he probably said it loudly, too. With his fucking gigantic gaping mouth.
So at the time, the negative reviews, like, destroyed Brian's confidence. He viewed the rejection of the album as a rejection of himself, his art, and his emotions, causing him to spiral in subsequent years, and a constant pressure for perfection on his follow-up album, which they abandoned, Smile.
Right.
So that kind of ate him up. He wanted to top Pet Sounds. Pet Sounds didn't sell well. he had like this pressure on himself. Smile has got to be better than Pet Sounds. It's got to do well commercially. And they ended up scrapping the album.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's.
But if that didn't happen, would John Stamos be in the Beach Boys?
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I just love the fact that they're like recurring characters on Full House. It's so fucking odd.
But it's like Mike Love's. Him and Mike Love have got a thing going.
Yeah.
I saw Brian when he was touring here in Calgary.
Really?
With the full orchestra. And Al Jardine, it's him and Al Jardine, and then Al Jardine's son does Brian's parts. For the parts that Brian just walks off stage and sits in the corner like this. You know what I love about him? Where he's like, yeah, I'm fucking crazy. What are you gonna do about it? Like, they're on stage, there's an orchestra playing, he's like, you don't need me. And you can see him sticking out of the curtain, just sitting there. And I'm like, that guy, that's everything I've ever wanted in anybody.
It's so funny because that seems like it would be a Rory Scovel bit. But it's like, it's a real person doing that.
Dude, he's either the funniest person alive or just a genius. Like, you know what I mean?
Or both.
Or both.
Or
I don't
both.
know.
So over time, the album has gained significant popularity and is considered to be one of the most influential albums of all time, featuring in like the top 3 of many of the greatest album of all time lists. Often 1 or 2 or 3. It's interchangeable depending on who you're asking. But I have some review scores of modern reviews. So AllMusic gave it a 5 out of 5. Blender 5 out of 5. Chicago Times 5 out of 5. Chicago
4 out of 4.
4 out of 4. Sorry.
4 out of 4.
Encyclopedia of Popular Music
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Entertainment Weekly
A+.
Yep. Okay, you can read.
Q 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Rolling Stone 5 out of 5. Rolling Stone Album Guide 5 out of 5. Slant Magazine 5 out of 5.
So in 2004, Pet Sound was preserved in the
National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
I want everybody to know that I can read. I just can't see it.
Can't see it. So let's review this fucking thing, eh?
Let's get at her.
Let's get at it. Okay, so every week on the podcast, we review based on technical, musical, lyrical, album art, reception, and does it hold up? Technically, this album, it fucking was.
Are we just gonna throw out 10s? Because, like,
Yeah.
you can't not.
It's absurd not
Technically,
to.
you can't not. Like, what are you
Yeah,
doing with
I'm going
60
10 on
musicians?
that.
Yeah, like
I'm going with
60
10 on
different
that.
musicians
On
and-
musical, I'm also probably going to go with 10.
Well, I'm a 10.
Yeah. The
Honestly, I thought the orange juice bottle a little flat.
Yeah. You're right. You know, now that I think about it, wasn't quite the right
I think they
tone.
needed 3 accordions personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite full enough. Okay, I would say, so on the technical side of things, obviously revolutionized production. He a crazy man it takes to do weird shit that, changes the game. So I would say, 10 on technical, I would go 10 on musical. Lyrics, I would go fucking 10. Album art's the one thing that I'd go, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, album art is a weird one.
It's a weird one. It makes no sense compared to, like, their contemporaries either, because everyone else had gotten out of that stupid, like, top is fucking green, there's the, name of the band and the album and then a picture of them. Everyone else had gotten out of that by this point. Like, all their contemporaries, like, that year you had, like, Jefferson's Starship Takes Off, you had Freak Out, you had Rubber Soul, Revolver. All of them had, like, unique album art, and this is the fucking Frank Sinatra's Strangers in the Night had better album art than this fucking album. So I'd say that this is, like, a 4 out of 10 on album.
I was like, I'm gonna roll 10s on everything, but if he asks album art, I'm gonna be like, I'm not gonna lie about album art.
So let's go through aggregately here, so you can do your math on it.
Okay, so we got.
Musical, we all agree is a 10. Technical, we all agree
Yes,
is a 10.
10.
Lyrics, do we agree it's a 10?
Yeah, I'd say 10. So.
No, think about it.
Honestly, like, like 10 if we're not comparing it to the musicality. But sometimes the lyrics they're very simplistic. They're very like it's not that I don't like them, but it's just like I don't know if they're the same value.
No, that's fair. So I would. Okay, now that you've said that, I'm dropping mine to an 8.
Yeah, like I don't know that I'd be comfortable going under an 8.
I'm gonna go a 9 on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 8.5 just to be not fight the good fight.
Across the board right now, we're at a 9.75 aggregately.
Now, the one interesting one too is the reception of it too. So like we've come across this multiple times where an album was poorly received or not well received at its when it released to
Right.
later on in time it received critical acclaim. Like we've come across this how many times.
I will say about this album though, Americans it was not well received, and they have no taste. So I don't know if.
Please give me my green card.
Yeah. Anyways, December 14th at the Ice House in Pasadena. Okay. No, but I feel like especially at that time because it was such a departure, and a lot of people who didn't like the Beatles liked the Beach Boys because they were like kind of like the American counterpart that was a little more wholesome because it's like I want to take you in my car and then take you home at night.
Brian Wilson even said in an interview that like Europeans listen to music better than Americans. So.
Yeah.
Those early lyrics were like, man, Dad's gonna be cheesed if we're not home on time.
I got you there at 7:59. Your dad was standing there with a shotgun. He said, "That's okay, son. You got her here on time."
There we go. That's what we're missing. Oh my God! Turn the Beach Boys down. I'm trying to do a podcast.
My fucking Beach Boys. It's up there.
So album art. So reception. Where we gotta do reception.
Reception. I'll rock a 7.5 on.
I'm gonna go up just because it's now like such a legendary album.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go an 8.5 on it.
8.5.
I'll go 9 now
9?
because it's all I talk about.
Now, Spencer?
We're at a 9.25. Album art might drop a bit.
I never know if he's
4.
doing the math correct.
Me either, and I'm not.
I just assume it is. I just assume it's good math.
I'm really good at averaging.
Do you know what? I asked him, I think on the last one, I was like, are you doing that? And he pulled out a calculator and was like, yeah, you can't do that in your head. And I was like, Spencer's math is like Brian's wall of sound.
It's like the one thing that I'm good at.
So you're going to go 4 on album art.
I'm going 4 on album art.
I'm going to go higher than that because, yeah, it's not great, but it is iconic. So,
yeah.
I don't know, I'm going to go like a 7.5.
I'll go 6.
6? Okay,
Yeah.
So now we're at 8.25, but does it hold up?
Yes, it holds.
It holds up.
Yeah.
That's across the board. Okay, so 8.25.
Round that bitch up.
All right, 8.5.
Yeah.
All right. 8.5 for Pet Sounds. We just have to make sure that if we like an album, it's above Bruce Springsteen. That's all.
That's kind of our line.
That's our line. And if we don't like an album, it's below Bruce Springsteen.
Anyways, thanks for coming
Yeah.
up, Brett.
Before you go, where can people find you?
Yes.
What are your tour dates? Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, well, I don't know when this airs, but I'm in
Wednesday.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm in Lethbridge this weekend, and Alberta has been killing it everywhere I go, so it's, let's keep it up. We're having fun. I'm going to be there all weekend at Good Times. And then in Edmonton in December, you can catch me on Instagram at Brittany Lyseng the Comedian. Brittany the Comedian.
Fuck yeah.
And then everywhere else, just type it in.
And your album.
Yeah.
Break and enter.
Yeah, it's
Break it
on
in.
Amazon, it's on Spotify.
It's on Spotify. It's on iTunes.
It's
It's
on-
on
You like to put
Deezer.
Amazon first.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amazon.
Thank you, Amazon.
Thank you, Amazon and Acast for including us in the indie podcast program. Okay. Any other dates or?
Yeah, I mean, I list my tour dates on. It's not worth going through, but I am in Alberta. I'm in Saskatchewan. I'm in all over the West up until Christmas, and then we have a new Eastern slot for the New Year. So.
Fuck yeah!
Heck
All right.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Brittany.
Thank you.
Before I sign off, I do have one date that I got to announce. I already did. Fucking December 14th at the Ice House in Pasadena. It's gonna be my first time performing in the States. I'm excited about it.
Heck
I
yeah.
fucking can't wait. It's part of the Los Angeles Comedy Festival. Yeah, I'm on the X-rated show. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I was worried otherwise. they were like, which categories? And I was like, not TV clean. But yeah, so we do have some listeners in LA. So if you're there, come on out. It'll be fun.
Awesome.
I'm excited. All right, thanks, Brittany.
Thanks, guys.
Anal contusions.